Okay, so have you ever tried coding something like maybe a game or an animation where you've got these shapes on the screen and you want to like move them around with your mouse?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the first things you start experimenting with when you're learning to code, right? Like how to make things interactive.
Yeah, exactly. And
Oh.
and it seems pretty simple at first, just drag a circle across the screen. But then you start thinking about, okay, what if I have a circle and a star and I want to move them together, like a circled star?
Right, you want them to act like they're connected, like one whole object instead of two separate things.
Exactly. And that's exactly the problem that our sources for this deep dive tackle. They basically walk through how to solve this, seemingly simple challenge of making multiple shapes move as one. And it all comes down to this idea of a group.
A group.
Yeah, it's like think of it like a container. You're
Hey.
putting all your shapes, your circle, your star, whatever you have into this one group, and then you can treat that whole group as a single object.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. So instead of telling the circle to move, and then separately telling the star to move, you just told the group to move, and everything inside comes along for the ride.
Exactly. And the sources actually have some code examples that show this side by side. Like first they show you how you would do it, the long way, updating each shape individually. And then they're like, "But wait, there's a better way." And they introduce groups.
So I'm guessing it's a lot less code when you use a group.
Oh yeah, way less. Like way, way less. You'll see when we look at the examples. But first, I want to just highlight something that I thought was really cool about this. Like, we've been talking about complex conditionals lately
Yeah.
and key events. And this idea of a group kind of ties into both of those things.
Oh, really? How's...
Well, think about it. Like the group itself is like a condition. It's like saying if these shapes are part of this group, then they'll all move together. So it's not an explicit if else statement in the code, but it's kind of like an implied conditional.
Hmm. Yeah, I see what you mean. And what about key events?
Well, the key event here is obviously the mouse movement, right? Like when you move your mouse, that's the event that triggers something to happen. And what happens is that the group gets updated. So the group is basically simplifying the consequence of that key event. Instead of having to write separate code for each shape to respond to the mouse movement, you just have one piece of code that says, okay, the group needs to move to this new position.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So the group itself isn't the conditional or the event, but it kind of like sits in between those things and makes everything a lot cleaner and easier to manage.
Exactly. And the source has this really great line of code that I think perfectly illustrates how groups work.
Mm.
It looks like this group circle star.
Let's break that down. So G, that's just the name of our group, right?
Yeah,
And we can call it anything.
it's just a variable name. Like you could call it my awesome group if you wanted to.
Okay, and then the equal sign, that's just assigning that name to whatever's on the right side of the equation.
Right. And on the right side, we have group, which is what's actually creating the group object. So group is like a special keyword or function in the coding language that tells it, hey, we're going to make a group here.
And then inside the parentheses, we list all the shapes that we want to be part of this group.
Mhm.
In this case, it's just a circle and a star, but you could have way more shapes if you wanted to.
Yeah, totally. And notice how they're separated by a comma. That's important. The comma tells the computer, okay, this is the end of one shape, and now we're moving on to the next one.
Right, so if you forget the comma, things are going to get messed up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's one of the most common errors that people make with groups. It seems like such a small thing, but it can really break your code.
So once we've created this group called G, how do we actually use it to move our shapes around?
Well, now instead of referencing the individual shapes like circle.center X or star.center Y, you just use G.center X and G.center Y.
So we're basically treating the group like it's a single shape with its own center point.
Exactly. And when you update that center point, everything inside the group moves along with it. So if you say G.center X equals mouse's X, that's going to move the entire group so that its center is aligned with the X coordinate of your mouse.
Okay, I'm getting it. So it's like you're attaching an invisible rod to the center of the group, and then you're moving that rod around with your mouse, and all the shapes are stuck to the rod.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And it gets even more powerful when you start adding more shapes to the group. The source has this other example where they have a group with 7 shapes in it.
Hmm.
It's a circle, 2 big stars, and then 4 little stars around the outside.
Wow, 7 shapes. That would be a lot of code to write if you were doing it the long way without groups.
Yeah, totally. You'd have to update the X and Y coordinates for every single shape individually every time the mouse moves. With the group, you just have one line of code that updates the group center and you're done.
So it's not just about saving time, it's also about making your code less error prone. Like if you have to write the same code over and over again, you're more likely to make a mistake somewhere along the line.
Right, like maybe you misspell a variable name or you forget to update one of the shapes and then your whole animation is broken. But with groups, you're reducing the amount of code you have to write, so there are fewer opportunities for errors to creep in.
That's a really good point. And speaking of errors, the source actually highlights a couple of really common mistakes that people make when they're first learning about groups.
Oh yeah, the classic syntax errors that can drive you crazy.
Exactly. Like one of them is forgetting to put a comma between the shapes when you're defining the group. So instead of writing group circle star, you might accidentally write group circle
Yeah.
star without the comma.
Ugh, yeah, I've been there. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And then you spend like an hour trying to figure out why your code isn't working, and it turns out it's just a missing comma.
It happens to the best of us.
Ah.
And the other common error is forgetting to close the parentheses at the end of the group statement.
Hmm.
Like you get so focused on listing all the shapes inside the group that you just forget to put that final closing parenthesis.
Right. It's like you run out of steam before you get to the very end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it seems like such a small thing, but it can totally break your code. So it's really important to pay close attention to those little details when you're working with groups.
So to wrap this up, I think the big takeaway here is that groups are an incredibly powerful tool for organizing and controlling multiple shapes in your code. They allow you to treat a collection of shapes as if it were a single entity, which simplifies your code, makes it easier to read, and helps you avoid errors.
Yeah, and once you start using groups, you'll find that they open up all sorts of possibilities for creating more complex animations and interactions. Like imagine you're creating a character in a game. You could group together all the different body parts, the head, the arms, the legs, and then you could move the entire character around the screen just by updating the position of the group.
Or what if you're building a user interface for an app? You could group together a bunch of buttons and text labels so that they always stay together as a unit.
Exactly. Groups give you so much flexibility in how you structure your code, and they can really help you streamline your development process. So I would encourage everyone to experiment with groups and see how they can help you create more awesome projects.
So here's a thought to leave you with. As you're coding, think about other ways you might be able to group things together. Or maybe even just organize your code in a way that makes it more efficient and easier to manage. Like, what are some other shortcuts or tricks you can use to avoid writing a ton of repetitive code and really focus on the creative stuff?
That's a great challenge.
Yeah.
I think that's something all coders are constantly striving for, finding those elegant solutions that make the code beautiful and efficient.
Exactly. All right, well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us and happy coding.
Thanks, everyone.